If you've tried Stronghold gels, but your curls still don't last, you're not alone. Stronghold is not a one-size-fits-all. Some Stronghold gels provide more texture and structure, while others are more softening and conditioning. And if you choose the wrong type, your curls are definitely not going to last. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Gina, and here we talk all things naturally curly. I love simplifying things and helping you find the right products. And I'm also a curl coach who helps my clients find the right products for them through proper testing. And today I'm going over some of the top gels that I typically recommend to my clients and that I use on myself, and I'm including both drugstore and high-end options. I'm categorizing these gels based on your hair's finish, which is essentially a simple way to identify your hair type based on how it looks, feels, and behaves. We're starting with the most texturizing gels, which are going to be great if your hair leans naturally very soft. Maybe it's fine, maybe it's really silky, it doesn't hold a curl, it gets weighed down easily, especially when you use conditioning products. Then I'll cover more softening gels, which are great for people who have more of a rough finish hair type. These gels provide softness, they have more slip, and they're much more conditioning. This is great for people who like a lot of flexibility and can tolerate those conditioning ingredients without getting super weighed down. But please keep in mind, you can use any of these gels no matter what your hair type is. It's all about what your preference is, and you can certainly have different ones to mix and match. For example, I have more of a rough finish hair type, and I still use all of these gels. I go with the more structured texturizing gels when I want some more volume and I really want my curls to last. And if I prefer more flexibility and softness, then I go with the gels that are more softening. The first category of gels are going to be the most texturizing and the least conditioning. These are going to be great if your waves or curls fall very easily. I have both a drugstore and a high-end option. The first one being the Curlsmith fragrance-free Stronghold gel. This is one of my all-time favorite gels. I love that it's fragrance-free, so those of you who can't tolerate fragrance are going to really like this. But this is one of those thicker consistency gels where you only need a little bit of it, and you also want to add some water to help it spread better. So one of the downsides of gels that have that texture and grit is they're not always the easiest to apply because they do feel kind of sticky, but as long as you have enough water, and in fact I do recommend applying them on more wet hair, you're going to be just fine using these. This is going to give you that hard cast, but you can certainly break that cast and have a softer look, but you will feel a bit of texture to your hair, especially if you use too much of this. But that texture is what's going to help your soft waves and curls hold so much longer. It also has humidity blocking ingredients, so when I really want my curls to hold up in the summertime, this is what I go with. Gels that are more texturizing don't have much slip to them either, so refreshing can be a little bit tough, but I can often get away with just using water as long as I don't have to do a major refresh, but sometimes I might have to incorporate a little bit of a leave-in or maybe my heat protectant to add some slip to my hands so I can work through my hair when I'm refreshing. For a drugstore option, I love the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk Flash Freeze Gel, the level 5. Make sure it's a level 5 because they have a level 3 and that one doesn't hold as well, but this one's very similar to the Curlsmith one. I might not get as long of lasting results with it, but I still get beautiful results. It's one of my favorite drugstore gels. It is really tough to find a good drugstore gel, so that's why when I do drugstore routines, I usually go with this one. It's great for beginners. It's the same type of consistency that's pretty thick, so I definitely have to add some water. With both of these gels, if you use too much, it's going to be harder to get the cast out and you might have that wet look, so definitely start lighter with these gels. This one also has great humidity blocking ingredients in it, and it also contains some keratin amino acids, which can be great if your hair is damaged or if you're looking to improve the shape and structure of your hair, but any hair type can use that type of strengthening ingredient. Both this and the Curlsmith gel are pretty low in conditioning. They're not necessarily going to dry out your hair, but they're not going to add to the conditioning or the weight. So when I use these types of gels as someone with more of a rough finish hair type, I usually use a leave-in conditioner or curl cream underneath. And that's nice because it allows me to customize my moisture and hold balance, or conditioning and hold balance. So that's one way that you can really customize it, is just have a product that isn't already overloaded with too many conditioning ingredients. It's just mix and match your products to get that right balance. This one can also be a little bit difficult to refresh, so I do the same techniques as I do with the Curlsmith one, trying just water, and if I really need some slip, I might go in with a little bit of a leave-in mixed with water just so I don't apply too much product. Be sure to stay tuned if you want to hear about some gels that are lightweight but also not too texturizing if you hate that sticky feel in your hair. The next category of gels are going to be your lower conditioning gels, but ones that don't have as much texture and grit. So if you you have this hair type that gets weighed down very easily, or maybe you just want something that's lightweight so you can layer in products, but you don't want it to necessarily feel super texturized, maybe you don't like that kind of dirty producty feeling in your hair, then you would want to go with these gels. I have two options here. Unfortunately, I don't have a drugstore version of this. Like I said, there's not a ton of good drugstore gels, but these are very similar. The first one being the Joico Joigel Firm Styling Gel. This was a newer gel to me. This is the level 8 styling gel. This one gives pretty strong hold. I used it by itself the first time I used it, and it definitely seemed to work best on its own. It wasn't necessarily drying on my hair, but it did feel a little dry the next day for me, so you might need to use a leave-in or a curl cream if your hair tends to be dry. But for those of you who don't need much conditioning, I think this would be really nice, and I have clients who like this type of product. It does have a little bit of a thick texture, but it's not as thick as something like the last two gels we talked about. I do still add some water to it, but it has more slip, so you can definitely work with it more. It's pretty low in conditioning ingredients. It also has humidity blocking ingredients and heat protection. So if you want a one and done type of product, if you don't even want to use a heat protectant, maybe you're someone who gets weighed down very easily even when you add in heat protectants, this is what I would go with if you just want one product to use because it has that added heat protection. It's also pretty rich in protein ingredients, so if your hair is damaged, you might really like this, but if your hair is not damaged, you could totally use this as well. It does give just a little bit of texture and grit, but my hair doesn't feel super gritty or anything like that. It just feels like I don't have as much conditioning in my hair, if that makes sense, but also not super dry. So it's definitely a lower conditioning type of gel. Refreshing was okay. I did start to feel like I needed some conditioning when I refreshed, so a little bit of leave-in mixed with water works well, or you can refresh with just water. I will say, once I start adding in curl creams and stuff underneath, I don't tend to get as much hold, so it definitely seems to work better on its own. I need to experiment maybe with some more leave-ins, but so far, the best results that I've probably gotten have been with the AG Recoil Cream with this on top. I believe I did that in a video, so I can show you my results from that. It works well, but I definitely noticed a reduction in hold when adding in that curl cream, so I really want to try some leave-ins underneath of it just to help balance out my moisture levels a little bit more, but I think it's a good option for those of you who don't need much moisture. Another gel that's pretty similar is the Rizos Curls Strong Hold Gel. This gel is also newer, and this one's unique in that it does contain alcohol, so it has a little bit of a drying effect, which can be beneficial for people's hair who get weighed down easily, or maybe your hair tends to get over moisturized very easily. You might really like this. For my hair type, I definitely needed a curl cream because my hair was pretty dry the next day. So you could totally just balance it out by layering your products, or go with this if you don't need much moisture. It definitely gave strong hold to my hair. It lasted a pretty long time. There's not really a lot of conditioning ingredients in here. There are some protein ingredients in this. It does provide humidity protection. One of the things that can be tricky about this gel is it's hard to figure out the right amount. Some of my clients have had trouble with this, me included, where if we don't use enough, we don't quite get enough hold. And then if we use too much, we get a stringy look that we can't quite scrunch out the cast. So you might have to do some testing to figure out the right water to gel ratio with this product because it is trickier. I feel like it's not as foolproof, which is why I don't always recommend it. But considering it's hard to find gels that are low in conditioning and high in hold, I did want to recommend it. And this one doesn't necessarily provide texture and grit either, but it's also not going to weigh your hair down. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful so far, or if you've learned something and you like this style of video, be sure to subscribe. It's totally free. The button's below. So the first two categories were great if you have a soft finish, and if you do have more of a rough finish, you're just going to need to layer in some curl creams or leave-ins underneath. But the next two categories are leaning more conditioning. So the third category is going to be gels that are higher in conditioning and also high in slip. And these are great if you live in dry climates, which I know I just talked about some good humidity proof gels, but these gels tend to work better for me when it's dry or mild. They don't necessarily hold up in humidity. First one being the InnerSense I Create Curl Memory. This is a natural gel, so if you prefer more natural based gels, this is going to be a good one. It is pretty strong hold. In fact, you get an extreme cast with this, so much hold that I usually will layer in a foam underneath of it, maybe even a curl cream too, to try and reduce the hold. So you've heard me talk about with the other gels, when I add in products underneath, it breaks up the hold. This one I do that on purpose because it's easy to overdo it. It also takes a little bit to nail the right amount, but you will get a cast with this. So if you're someone's hair that just never gets a cast, you might really like this product. A little goes a long way. You only need a tiny amount of gel. It has some ingredients that I find work pretty well in dry climates, and it does last a long time for me in dry climates. Usually my day 2 and day 3 look better because again, I have a lot of that cast look on day 1. It's very lightweight, so I think you could use this whether if your hair is more of a soft finish or a rough finish. You could definitely use this product because it is so light. It's not going to weigh down your hair. And it has some ingredients that really help improve your curl structure and help it last, which is why it's called I Create Curl Memory. So if your waves and curls fall very easily into the next day and you're in a dry climate, you might really like this. However, you might need some of that texture and grit if your waves and curls are falling easily. So you might want to incorporate like a hairspray or go with one of the other gels that have that texture and grit. But keep in mind, this one does not have texture and grit. It's more of a slippery finish, very soft feeling. For a drugstore option that has a similar effect is the Uncle Funky's Daughter Curly Magic Curl Stimulator. So this gel is also more of a botanical natural gel. It uses natural ingredients such as aloe as the first ingredient. So that's a film forming humectant, which is why I think it works great in dry climates. It helps to improve your moisture retention. So lock in some of that moisture in your hair. This one is very moisturizing though. So I would use this more if you lean a little bit more of that rough finish. Maybe your hair is a little bit coarse, more dry. For me, this is what I use sometimes in the fall and in the winter time. I actually used it the other day. It's very dry where I am right now. We're in the winter season. So I use this with just their heat protectant underneath of it. And I got hair that lasted several days in a dry climate. It was very crunchy on day 1. And in fact, I had a hard time getting rid of that wet look. That's why I find these kind of similar because day 1 definitely gives that hard cast look even when you break it, but day 2 looks perfect. A little tip, I actually added in a dry shampoo, which you could also probably do a texture spray, but I purposely went with a dry shampoo that had some alcohol to try and relieve some of that wet look on my hair on wash day, and I'll put up the results, but it definitely did the trick to where I got better day 1 results. Didn't look dry the next day, it wasn't too texturized or anything like that, but that was a great technique if you do struggle with that look, which is why I think it might not be the best for someone's hair that already gets like over moisturized easily, like if your hair is very fine. So more of like your coarse texture, I think it would work well with, or if your hair is like a medium texture. It also has high slip, both of those gels do, and they're very easy to refresh and they reactivate with just water. Our fourth category are going to be your highest conditioning gels with the most amount of slip. So these feel softer, they're more softening on the hair, and they don't have any texture and grit in them. And as a reminder, these are in order of least to highest conditioning. So first is the AG Liquid Effects Medium Hold Weightless Styling Gel. You might be wondering why this is called medium hold if I'm including it in a strong hold gel video, but that's because I actually do get a pretty strong hold out of this, but it's more of that flexible strong hold. So you might see a lot of times I label gels as a strong flexible hold, whereas other gels like this Curlsmith one or the Not Your Mother's one, I will label that as just strong hold. These give a very different feel to the hair, but they do last a long time and they give you that long lasting frizz control, which is what I consider strong hold. And you do get a cast. So my hair will dry with a major cast with this, not as much as some of the others. It feels a little bit more flexible, but you can actually break it and reveal a softer look to your hair. It doesn't look so wet and so much like a cast after breaking it. So I like layering this gel. I also like using it by itself. It makes for a great one and done product. You still might need a heat protectant underneath if you're gonna diffuse, but so many people love this. It's a very good universal gel. The reason I have it under the more rough finish category is because it is conditioning, but it's also not super heavy, so it's not gonna weigh down someone's hair that is fine or more of a soft finish. You can certainly still use this. You just might notice that you need to add in something like a hairspray for a little bit of extra grit if your curls and waves are kind of falling and not holding into day 2 and day 3. But for like a medium to a more rough finish, this will definitely last you a long time without any refreshing. Very slippery, easy to style with, easy to refresh. That cast comes right back with just a little bit of water when you refresh, and it also has those humidity blocking ingredients. Then I have the Ouidad Advanced Climate Control Stronger Hold Gel. This is one of my all-time favorite gels. It's very similar to the AG one, so all of the same benefits, but just a touch more conditioning ingredients in this product. This one will definitely give you a little bit of a wet look on day 1 because it locks in so much moisture, but by day 2, it looks so good. I love my day 2 results with this product. Kind of similar effect of the Uncle Funky's Daughter one that I mentioned, where you will look like you have a cast in, but you can definitely break it and it will feel softer. My hair feels very soft when I use this, very conditioning, gives me a long-lasting hold, great in humidity, reactivates beautifully with just water. In fact, I can usually do a dry refresh after using this, just kind of tucking in some frizz and finger coiling some dry curls to separate clumps, and I can be good to go. So it's really my least effort type of gel. So if I don't want to have to do anything to my hair in between wash days, I will definitely go with this gel or the AG one as well. I think it's great for people's hair who need a little bit more moisture in their routine. If you're very fine, you might get a little bit weighed down with this product, but I have had clients that have great results with it as well. So it's always something that it's nice to try, it's nice to have on hand just to see how your hair reacts to it, but I have seen some get a little bit weighed down with it, which is why I put it under the high conditioning category, because there's quite a few conditioning ingredients, lots of proteins, amino acids, all of those can be conditioning on the hair. But several polymer ingredients, which is what I always look for in a good long-lasting gel. P.S. I finally got to try out the new Bounce Curl Weightless collection today. This was my first time trying out the ceramide jelly, which is a medium hold gel. I'm gonna see how well this holds up, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek at my day one results. It's only been a couple of hours since I finished diffusing for this wash day, but let me know if you wanna see a full review of this line and what your thoughts have been on it. Again, this is a medium hold product. I'll put the link below if you do wanna check it out. So yes, I have talked about a lot of these gels many of times, but I thought it would be helpful to just put them all side by side. So we have one master list of my top gels that I often recommend for my clients, for you guys. Whenever you guys ask me like, what are your top gels? This is going to be the list for that. And I don't know, maybe there might be some new ones that I add in the future. I have some other gels that I do really like. And if I didn't mention them here, it's probably because they fall more under the light to medium hold. So I've actually already done a video on my favorite light and medium hold gels that I can link for you down below, but there's some other great options as well if you don't prefer as much hold. And remember, you can use any of these gels no matter what your hair type is. I find that there are three main differences between gels. It's their hold level, obviously, their conditioning level, and then whether if they're more texturizing or more soft and slippery, because those things are very different, and you usually won't find a gel that's highly texturizing but then also soft. Usually those are opposites. If you want to see how all of these compare side by side and a summary chart, I put that together for you on the blog post that goes with this video. That will be linked down below, as well as any discount codes that I have for these brands and for these gels. All of those links will be below. And if you're still not getting that long-lasting hold, even when trying these gels, you're still not getting those results that you want, and you feel like you've tried everything, it's probably time to get that outside opinion and get that help and support. That's what I offer inside my curl coaching program, which is actually now open for enrollment for our spring program, but only through March 15th. After March 15th, you won't be able to get in until the next round and the next season. So if you've been thinking about it, if you want to get your curls in order for the upcoming spring and summer season, then definitely get in now. I would love to help you out. We do so much troubleshooting. So I take a look at your routine. I tell you what you should change. I watch you style, because often the issue is in your technique, not necessarily that you have the wrong gel, and you would be shocked at the difference that it can make to adjust your technique for your hair type without having to change your product. So I never want people to have to go out and buy a bunch of products. This program will save you time and money and so much frustration in your curly routine. So if you want details on that, I will link you to my website below. You can sign up on there, you can read more about it, and you can even see some snippets from calls if you want to see how it works. But always reach out to me. Go ahead and send me an email or DM if you have questions about how it works, and I would love to chat with you. If you want to hear about some of my favorite light and medium hold gels, I will link that video for you right here on the screen. I list some of my top gels that are actually long lasting for different hair types, both soft and rough, and also for different climates in that video, so you can get even more gel recommendations. And it's nice to be able to mix it up and have different hold levels as well. So I will talk to you over in that video. Bye everyone.